5 months ago, my friend told me to watch One Piece. Well, he told me more around a year ago, but I decided to actually listen to him 5 months ago. I had the same excuse as everyone else, but it's too long, 1,000 episodes, that's way too much. Before that, the only anime I had ever watched was Attack on Titan, which I still think is an amazing work of art. I don't know what snapped in me, but sometime in early August, right before the new school year, I started episode 1. And yes, this was my senior year and also right before college applications started, so I don't know what I was thinking. Starting the anime was actually not my first experience with the One Piece world, as I had watched the live action around the time it released on Netflix. I remember enjoying the live action, and so that certainly helped me with starting the anime. As you can tell by the title, I have made a significant amount of progress in 5 months. So because of how exciting it was to experience the drums of liberation, Gear 5, and the whole fight with Kaido, I thought I'd take this as an opportunity to reflect on the show so far, and share some of my favorite moments. First off, I understand why I hear everyone praising the Pre-Timeskip Era. That era had so much charm to it. The overall chemistry with the crew never failed to make me laugh. Sanji and Zoro's bantering, Chopper and Luffy just being fun idiots, Robin being the quiet one but always listening and having fun with the group, and Frankie showing off his new inventions, Nami always charging everyone for money and being the skilled navigator she is, and Usopp, well... Oh, but Soga King burning the flag and just being the awesome person that he is. And we can't forget Brook with his yo. That was a terrible impression, I'm sorry. Anyways, the character dynamics are just so entertaining to watch. Each arc, the show introduces a large amount of characters, and they could be some of the jolliest people on the outside, but then have a tragic past that brings you to tears. Everyone says Arlong Park is where you realize the greatness of what you're watching. And I do agree, Arlong Park was an amazing arc. I had already seen up to there in the live action, so I knew what was coming, but it was still great to see it in the anime. And watching that scene where Luffy lets Nami know he will help her no matter the cost is just so iconic and so good. But the first arc that really glued me was Alabasta. It was the first arc that I saw a significant amount of build up for. Vivi is introduced as Miss Wednesday, Nico Robin as Miss All Sunday, and a mysterious warlord named Crocodile. They're all a part of an organization called Baroque Works. Here's one thing about One Piece. When a character is introduced, you could hate them, but then later on you realized you misjudged them. Miss Wednesday started out as an annoying character, but she does a complete 180 on you, and it's revealed that she's undercover in order to get information for saving her kingdom. Or, for example, Nico Robin. She's also working with Baroque Works, but it's revealed later that she did that to get closer to the poneglyphs. Finding all the poneglyphs is Robin's dream, because she is interested in it more than anyone else, in putting together the history of the Void Century. Anyways, I've learned not to judge characters too fast. And yes, even Bo Hancock.
誰じゃ一体わらわの通り道に子猫を置いたのは
Anyways, the Alabasta saga kept getting better, and I had so much respect for Vivi trying to go back and save her people from the warlord Crocodile. She could have just abandoned her people and went to some paradise island or something, but no, she went back to go free her people. The way Crocodile manipulated the people into hating their own king and got an uprising to occur against the royals shows how smart the snake was. When that music played when Luffy beat Crocodile, I got chills. The Straw Hats also quietly leaving to protect Vivi from being associated with them was such a good moment. I really wish she became a Straw Hat, but I understand her people needed her, and this was probably the better choice. This concept of a pirate taking over country is reused a lot, but it never bothered me. Every time they do it, they make it interesting enough where it'll feel fresh and get you hooked. Luffy as a character has always been impulsive and fun. You can see again and again that he aims to set everyone free and give them the freedom that he's achieved, and I think that's what One Piece is about. It's not just some silly pirate adventure, but it's about resisting the cruelty of an unfair government and overpowering tyrants so that everyone has the chance to be free. The backstories are what I believe a fundamental core to One Piece. My personal favorite one so far has been Sanji's. After seeing Whole Cake, I was surprised and amazed. Going into the arc, I felt like, what is this, talking trees and sweets? How is this gonna play out? It turned out, it became one of my favorite arcs in all of One Piece. Viewing Sanji's true backstory for the first time, seeing how he grew up into a family of inhuman brats, it was completely unexpected and I was there for it. The Germa 66 backstory did well in connecting to his original backstory that was revealed at the very start. We know why he wants to cook. He cooked for his mom, the only person in his family who truly cared about him. And even though it was a plate of the most disgusting, dubious food, she ate it with the biggest smile. And a direct parallel to this moment was when Luffy eats Sanji's food after starving himself until Sanji comes back. Sanji pushed away from his crew in Whole Cake because he knew the Emperor of the Sea, Big Mom, would go after them if he hadn't accepted the marriage proposal. And he was also worried about Zeph, his true father figure. Pudding's betrayal absolutely destroyed me. I thought she was genuine about liking Sanji, and when it was revealed that it was all an act and she planned to kill him, I literally cried. At this point in the show, Sanji had no one. He left his crew for their protection, Germa 66 bullied him and he couldn't fight back in order to protect Zeph on Baratier, and the one person he thought cared for him turned out to be part of Big Mom's plot to kill Sanji and steal Germa's technology. Whole Cake cemented Sanji as one of my favorite characters, and Wano would also elaborate on that. Some other backstories that I felt are very strong are Nami's, Robin's, Chopper's, Brooks, Law's. I could go on. The point is, One Piece never fails to make an interesting backstory. I mean, they could even make one out of this guy who dresses up as a baby. Water 7 through Enies lobby is something I just have to address. Starting this arc, we see the Straw Hats arrive at the City of Water. They're looking for a new crew member to be their shipwright. Following Skypiea, they had a lot of gold they could transfer into berries. We are introduced to many new characters this arc, and I honestly thought that Polly would be the one to join their crew. For some reason, I also wanted Kaku to join. I don't recall why. I actually cannot think of any reason now. Maybe it was his nose. Anyways, you learn about these new characters for a good amount of time. Lucci, the pigeon guy, seemed cool, and the vibes of this arc was nothing serious. Just a man running around in his underwear stealing money from the Straw Hats. What could possibly happen? My mind was absolutely blown when it turned out these characters that we had gotten to know were government agents and a part of a plot to kill Iceberg, the mayor of this town, and steal blueprints in order to make a weapon. Not to mention the mystery with Robin and how she was involved with CP9. Oh, and Usopp challenging his own captain to a duel because of a disagreement over their ship. Oh, and Frankie's backstory. Okay, Water 7 was a stacked arc, and it just got better as we went to Enies lobby. Like I said earlier, backstories are tragic in One Piece. And this one was no different. We see Robin as a kid growing up on this island called O'Hara. It had hidden information that the rest of the world no longer remembers. The citizens are researching history from the Void Century, which is a mysterious time that no one can recall. It's a gap in history that almost seems like it was erased. The world government also doesn't want people to know about this time, and so they burnt down the entire island and murdered the citizens. It goes to show how the One Piece government is vicious and corrupt. I'm glad that our society doesn't have governments that hide information from their people. The end of Water 7 to the start of Enies lobby was perfection. You'll see that the Straw Hat crew would go to the ends of the earth to help their friend. They knew that Robin wanted to go with them out to sea, and that she was resisting the Straw Hats because she didn't want to bring harm to them. So watching the Straw Hats beat up all of these government officials and get to the top to save Robin was very enjoyable. And Soga King shooting the world government's flag was also sick. Sometimes I just wish Usopp could be like that. Also, rest in peace to the Going Merry. You truly were the GOAT. Pun intended. I should not be doing that.
I'm about to end this man's whole career.
One Piece deals with some serious themes like slavery and racism. We see this with the Celestial Dragons having slaves and thinking poorly of people like the Fishmen. The Celestial Dragons are some of the most disgusting creatures, and I cannot consider them human. So seeing Luffy sock that Celestial Dragon in the Sabaody arc was very satisfying. He doesn't care about the risk of his actions. When he knows something is wrong, he'll show that. Also, the reoccurring joke of Zoro being lost kept getting funnier. Sabaody is where we're introduced to the worst generation of pirates, such as Law, Kid, Beji, Hawkins, and it's also where we realize that Luffy and his crew are hella weak. The pacifistas and Kizaru absolutely destroy them, and Kuma slapping them to separate parts of the world is what led to the time skip. Now, I'd be lying if I said I didn't know there was a time skip in One Piece. That was something I knew day one. I also knew many other things like Ace's death because of some YouTube thumbnail that I saw on my feed. Thanks, YouTube. Marineford and Impel Down were very engaging. It was nice to see so many old characters help in the prison break, and it was just a fun arc right before the one that absolutely shattered me. Even though I still knew that Ace was going to die, somehow, I still held hope. This arc shows how so many people can cling on to Luffy. Everyone was set on protecting him through the fights, and I really don't think it was just because he's Ace's little brother. There are so many moments in One Piece where it feels like everything is predetermined, and it's fate that's pushing him closer to his goal of becoming the Pirate King. The same goes for the rest of the Straw Hats. They conveniently ended up exactly where they needed to be during the time skip. After Marineford, I was pretty much a torn apart guy. Our main character Luffy, who is always joyful and sharing that joy with others, was the worst we had ever seen him. He didn't have his friends anywhere near him, and he had just lost his brother. The post-war arc would finally give us more closure on Luffy's backstory. We see the three boys, Sabo, Ace, and Luffy. Luffy is always persisting after Ace, and Ace shoves him away. He even tries to kill him, which is a lot different than the Ace we see in the future. It turns out that Ace and Sabo have been collecting treasure for years to pursue their dream of becoming pirates. Some real pirates are after their stash, and they capture Luffy. This is a moment that shows Luffy's loyalty. He may be impulsive and stupid at times, but he would never give up on his friends, even after he's almost been beaten to death. Because of that event, Ace and Sabo accept Luffy, and they drink from the sake cups to become brothers. Luffy and Ace don't have their father figures around them, so they stay with Don Don. Sabo has his real family living in the rich city of Goa. He ran away from his home because he saw the rich people in this kingdom for who they truly were. Jerks who don't give a damn about the poor and think of themselves as superior. Sabo didn't want that lifestyle, and he much preferred an adventurous life with Luffy and Ace. So when Sabo was taken back to his family against his will, and found out about their plan to torch the Grey Terminal where some people live, you can tell he wasn't happy. Around this time is actually where he ran into the revolutionary Dragon, who is Luffy's father. This moment would set up his future as a commander in the Revolutionary Army. When Sabo got blown up by a celestial dragon, it just made me hate them more. Keep in mind, at this point, we had also just lost Ace, so it hits you right in the gut when you realize Luffy has lost all his brothers. Although, after this, I looked up Sabo's death scene to rewatch it, and I was surprised to see he wasn't dead. So yeah, that spoiler was probably my fault. Now, I don't plan for this video to be too long, as I realize you all have lives and probably don't want to listen to me yap about this show for hours upon hours. And if I were to cover every single thing about One Piece, it would take that long. So I'm going to skip through some things and quickly summarize what I felt. Brook's backstory. I wanted to give that skeleton just the biggest hug. After seeing how he's alone for so many years and couldn't even step into the sunlight, that was heartbreaking. I also really hope he sees Laboon one day. Trafalgar D. Law. This guy is built different, and his Devil Fruit ability is OP. It was very sad to see Corazon die in the action of protecting him, and I think it's one of the better backstories. Fishman Island was an overhated arc. I thought Ottoheim with her goal to unite fishmen and humans together was very likable, and I hated Hody for killing her and blaming it on the humans to keep Ottoheim's dream from becoming a reality. I should also take the chance to mention this, but I have been mostly watching the One Piece version. I watched the original from episode 1 all the way through Skypiea, and then I switched to One Piece. So my experience with pacing was definitely a lot better than most other people, especially in arcs like Dressrosa and Wano. Speaking of Wano, it's time to talk about this magnificent arc. After all, you probably clicked this video thinking it was just my thoughts on Gear 5. Well, I hope you were pleasantly surprised that it would be more than that. In the anime, Wano is around 200 episodes, and One Piece, which is what I watched, is condensed into 88 episodes. Before starting Wano, I was told different things. Wano is peak, it's the best, or Wano is actually really boring. No. So I was definitely both afraid and excited going into this arc. The build up to Wano started all the way back at Punk Hazard, which was a long time ago. We were introduced to Kinemon and Momonosuke, but we didn't know their full story. We also learned about the Smile Fruits, which then connected to the destruction of the Smile Factory in Dressrosa, and then also ties into Wano. The world in One Piece is always growing, with things tying back into the things we saw hundreds of episodes ago. One example of this would be Brook and Laboon. When we first met Laboon, Crocus talks about an old pirate group that Laboon was waiting for. Skip a few hundred episodes and we learn what he was talking about. He was talking about Brook and his crew. Anyways, back to Wano. Wano is separated into 3 parts and takes on a completely different tone than the anime has done before. There is new music, the visuals are upgraded, and it just feels new and refreshing. Zoro has become a fugitive there because he was framed for killing other samurai. Now, I don't know why, but I don't remember the outcome of this. From what I remember, he killed the true killer, but I feel like him being wanted for framed murder disappeared later in the arc. I guess everyone was so concerned with what was happening regarding Kaido. Robin, Frankie, Usopp, and Zoro got to Wano way before the rest of the Straw Hats because they didn't join Luffy going to Whole Cake. So they had already settled into the country, participating in the job that Kinemon assigned to them. The first act is really just to set up for the big payoff later, and I think it does that very well. We learn that the people of Wano are hungry and cannot get clean water from their river because of the toxins that that come from Kaido's factories. There are prison camps where prisoners' spirits are broken, and they have to work for food. It's not the ideal country one would want to live in. Now, like I said, Kinemon had not explained all the details of his story yet. They go up to the old castle of Oden and see Kinemon, Raizo, and Momonosuke's graves. Kinemon explains that they come from Wano 20 years ago, and that they traveled to the future. My reaction to this was exactly the same as Luffy's. Huh? What do you mean? You came from the past? I've seen this guy through 5 different arcs now, and we're just learning about this now. My mind was absolutely blown for this moment. There are many spoilers that I've seen, and this was not one of them. It's explained that after a great tragedy, Oden's wife had a devil fruit ability to take Kinemon and the rest of the Red Scabbards 20 years into the future. After they had gone, she made a prophecy to all the people of Wano, predicting that the Red Scabbards would come 20 years from now to liberate Wano from Kaido and Orochi's rule. And so after hearing that, it all made sense. Kinemon would go recruit help for the upcoming revolution against Kaido, and that's how he met Luffy and his crew on Punk Hazard. The first fight with Kaido was awesome, and I was very scared for the Straw Hat crew's safety. Luckily, Shinobu was able to save them. Luffy, however, was not so lucky, and he was taken to a prison to have his spirit broken. But this is Luffy we're talking about. He'll never get his spirit broken. Unless the Vice Admiral punches a hole through his brother's chest again. I need to point out, I love the music in this arc, especially the Moon Princess song. It sets the mood for the episode and would be the song that plays when a new act opens or closes. The lore behind it was also very sweet, with it being the song Hiyori would play for her father. Act 2 was a bit slower, but not as bad as everyone said it would be. Of course, I was watching the One Piece version, so it's definitely a lot worse than the normal anime. In Act 2, there are a lot of scenes with Luffy in the prison. The dynamic between Kid and Luffy was very fun to watch. 2 of the pirates from the worst generation just tearing each other apart with insults. I love it. The parts where Big Mom had lost her memory and was casually alongside Chopper and Tama had me cracking up. I think a really interesting thing about Otama is her power to bring friendships to almost anyone. It's not just because of her devil fruit power, because we see her bond with Big Mom, an Emperor of the Sea. This trait of befriending many and putting trust in allies is obviously present in Luffy, which makes me feel like Otama could go on her own journey and continue the fight for justice. She also stated that she wants to become a ninja, so I wouldn't be surprised if Oda made a new story focusing on her adventure, a long time after Luffy's era. I know this was sort of a random rant, but I just get that potential main character energy feeling from Otama. Also, Queen Song is a bop. We continuously see the effect that Kaido has on the country of Wano. The failed smile fruits are given to the residents of Ebisu. The people were very hungry, so of course they would eat them. Because of the smile fruit, the people of Ebisu town were not able to cry and could only laugh. So when Toko was laughing when her dad died, it really meant she was devastated, but was physically unable to show it on her face. There was absolutely no reason for Kaido and Orochi to do this. It was just plain cruelty, and they wanted the people of Wano to suffer. Yasui sacrificed himself to convey a message to the band of rebels. He altered the symbol to show a different meeting point for the rebels, and he lied saying he organized this as a prank. I'm gonna be honest, I really thought they would just bring this character back like they always do, but this time he actually died. And that made this story feel more realistic and tragic. Even Pedro sacrificed himself so the Straw Hats could get out of Whole Cake. And that wasn't a fake out either. It felt like the plot armor of One Piece started to wear off a little bit. I also thought Zoro's new sword, Enma, is broken. If he can't defeat Mihawk right now, I can't imagine what he has to do to improve more. Act 3 is a big one. In fact, I was glued to the screen for this entire arc. Wano Act 2 may have had a slower pace, but honestly that was probably needed in order to increase the payoff of Act 3. Because let me tell you, Act 3 delivered. The reason I think this is because we started with Oden's backstory. And you already know, when there's a backstory in One Piece, you gotta whip out that popcorn and hot chocolate and french fries and cakes, and Oden's backstory is possibly the longest one I've seen so far. But it has so much information packed into it. Not only do we get to see the origin of the Red Scabbards, but we also see key eventful people like Whitebeard and Roger. You can tell immediately there's a difference in the present Wano to the Wano that's in the backstory. The old Wano is the most peaceful country, especially because it's enclosed from the outside world. And the present Wano, I found Kinemon's arc interesting because he started out as a thief, and not a very respectable man. But after he meets Kozuki Oden, he completely changes his lifestyle and aims to protect him. Oden's sea adventure with the Whitebeard pirates was a journey I didn't expect. And knowing that Oden begged to be on the crew but then abandoned his chance to prove himself worthy for a woman in trouble, it just shows you everything you need to know about Oden. He cares about others. He puts others before himself. When Oden returned back to Wano, the country was in complete chaos. I can't say this enough, but I think what made Wano such a good arc was the constant reminder that this battle had been delayed for 20 years. It's up to the retainers of Oden and Luffy's crew, and all the people of Wano to come together and kick some dragon butt. Oden sacrificed so much. His naked dances in the street brought shame to his name, but he did it so Kaido and Orochi wouldn't kidnap citizens, and so that they would leave Wano in 5 years' time. That had been a lie, and they never planned to leave Wano, which made Oden's dances in the street have no purpose. Finally, Oden is sentenced to die in a boiling pot, and he does one more selfless thing. He agrees that if his retainers survive in the boiling pot with him, Kaido and Orochi won't bring harm to them, and so Oden holds them up on a piece of wood while he boils and dies. And that is yet another reminder of how selfless Oden is. He's probably the most selfless character in One Piece. And Kanjuro, that traitor, was just there, vibing all along, the entire time. I despise that guy. Kanjuro's betrayal was yet another thing I was spoiled on, but it actually didn't happen until I was a lot closer to the scene, so it was still somewhat a surprise. However, when all of the forces were not there to back the Red Scabbards up, I froze. The music, the wind, the scenery, it was all so ominous, and I knew something was off. The fact that Kinemon and the others were still going to march into Kaido's lair, even though they knew it would mean their death, shows they are loyal until the end. Except Kanjuro's plan didn't work because Yasui's sacrifice from Act 2 actually played a part in organizing the troops somewhere else. So when an entire army of forces came up to help Kinemon, along with the Straw Hats, I lost my mind. No matter how many times I see Luffy come to save others and beat up bad guys, it never gets old. I could watch 1,000 more episodes of this show. I'll say it right now. This show's not long enough. If you told me 5 months ago that I would be saying things like this, I would tell you to get your brain checked. But here we are with me saying things like this. Some other things I'll point out before we reach the end. Yamato. She's a fun character on the outside when you first meet her, and she seems to befriend the Straw Hats very quickly, but when you look deeper and see how she's been treated by her father, and how she has been isolated on Wano, not able to leave, you can see she really just needs a good friend. Ace was like that to her, and now Luffy is there to help free her. Robin's fight reinforces what Enies Lobby taught us. After the Straw Hats went to achieve what she thought was impossible to save her, she put all of her trust in them. And so when Sanji calls for help, that's not him giving up Robin to the enemy, it's him putting his trust in her. And that's something Black Maria would never understand, because she doesn't have a pirate crew as great as the Straw Hats. Robin's new form in that fight was unexpected, but they don't call her the Devil Child for nothing. Earlier in the video, I said Sanji has a moment in Wano that elaborates on what Whole Cake did. Whole Cake showed Sanji's hate for Germa, but also compassion because he still saved them. In Wano, we see him start to become what he fears most. Because of the Germa suit he used, he begins to lose his humanity. He hits a woman, which is something totally against Sanji's values. For one, he never uses his hands for violence, and two, he would never harm a woman. So Sanji destroying the Germa technology and making sure not to lose sight of himself for power fully cemented him as my favorite character. It also turns out he never hit a woman and it was just Queen, but the thought was still there. The King vs Zoro fight was something I was not ready to see. The visuals were incredible and something like I had never seen before. I liked how there was a strategy for beating King. At first it seemed that King was indestructible and had no weak points, but the idea that Zoro could only strike when the flame disappears was a clever way to design the fight. Lastly, before I get into the fights with Kaido, I have a couple more moments I want to mention. Nami is insanely brave. There are 2 times this arc where she stands up for Luffy in positions that could cost her her life. She refuses to say Luffy will never become the Pirate King because she truly believes in him, and will not slander Luffy's name for her benefit. One braver part is where she stands up to Kaido and even insults him. I respect Nami's character so much after this arc. The fight with Kaido, Big Mom, and the worst generation plus Zoro was an epic fight to see. For one, the original One Piece theme kicked in, and Luffy was able to knock down Kaido. Law and Kid's strategy of trapping Zeus in a box of metal and sending Big Mom down happened so fast, but it was just straight up aura. Law and Kid fighting Big Mom. It was 100% Trafalgar that did the damage to Big Mom. His anesthesia move is for sure what did the trick, but it's impressive that they were both able to work together and defeat an Emperor. And unlike how most end results of a fight go, we actually see Big Mom fall into lava, and there's no coming back from that. If she or Kaido comes back, I'm rioting. I also should say Momonosuke's arc has been perfect. Luffy has taught him throughout the show to take charge and stand up for himself. He may be a kid, but he lives with the blood of Oden and has a duty to the citizens of Wano. Momo has proved his worth and convinced the people to fight against Kaido's forces. We saw him go from a scared little boy to the future leader of Wano. And Momo's transformation at the end shows how dedicated he really is to putting an end to Kaido. Cool. Now let's get on to what you all have been waiting for. I've known about a white Luffy for a while now, and I knew he was going to acquire this white hair somehow and somewhere, but I was not ready for Gear 5. After After what seemed like a crushing defeat, Zunisha comes out of nowhere and the drums of liberation are heard. Joy Boy has returned. Joy Boy's name has been sprinkled out little by little. I think I remember he was mentioned in the poneglyphs somewhere, but if I'm being honest, I can't remember the exact origin. A plot twist that absolutely shocked me was the awakening of Luffy's devil fruit. His devil fruit was never just a normal devil fruit, but it was a mythical zone type that the world government has wanted for so long. This to me just turned everything around. It posed new questions like, why didn't the world government send all of their forces towards Luffy when they first heard about him? My friend actually answered this the other day, saying that it would draw too much attention and possibly reveal info about the Void Century, which we already know the government doesn't want to share. So Luffy was basically a god now, or as like the world government said, he's the sun god Nika. I think the best explanation to why this happened now is Luffy was pushed to his limits. He had never engaged in a battle as draining as this one, and that is what triggered his awakening and the presence of Joy Boy living on in him, or something like that. I haven't put everything together yet. The point was, Luffy was here for the reason of freeing Wano from Kaido's thumb, just like he had done countless times. And this fight was the goofiest thing I had ever seen, and I mean this in a good way. It was hilarious to see Luffy toss Kaido around like he was a garden snake. The big, strong emperor of the sea who had ruled over Wano for 20 years could not match the sun god Nika's power. At this point, it was just satisfying to watch Luffy toy with Kaido until he defeated him. I honestly wish that Gear 5 was a bit of a longer fight, but I know it'll appear again sometime. So One Piece. My final take before I end it off. The show has surprised me again and again. The backstories have torn me apart again and again. It's a show that everyone should try, and if they truly don't like it after giving it a good chance, I guess it's just not for them. My journey with this story has been a roller coaster of emotions, and there's been plenty of comedy and feel-good moments, and a lot of tragic moments. A lot of times it almost feels like you were a part of the Straw Hat crew. You're going on these adventures with the crew, uncovering the world as you go. The mystery is there, waiting to be uncovered, and I'm very excited to experience Egghead and onwards. I've seen the first few episodes of Egghead, and there's some crazy stuff that happens, but I won't go into that here because this was specifically meant to go over things before Gear 5, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone in case they haven't reached there yet. I'm sorry if this video didn't address everything you thought it would. There is a lot I left out, and I realized that. I mean, how could I leave out that Katakari fight that was Speak? I don't even know if I'm saying his name right, but I'll just say the Mochi Man. But if I try to cover everything I've watched so far, this video would be like a 2-hour video, and I already have enough images stocked up in my computer from this. But anyways, I'd like to say thank you to my friend who told me to start this journey 5 months ago. I do not regret it. After I'm fully caught up on the show, you gotta recommend some more good shows, because it's 2 for 2 now. I mean, first we had Attack on Titan, and now One Piece. They're both banger shows. Also watch Arcane. Stop avoiding it. You can't avoid it. And to you all in the audience, I hope you found some enjoyment in looking back through the arcs of One Piece with me. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I honestly just wanted an excuse to yap about One Piece here. Thank you to everyone who has watched to the end, and not skipped to the end. No, I'm kidding. I don't care if you skip to the end or not. As long as you find the parts that you enjoy, that's great. But seriously, thank you all so much for the support recently, and I'll see y'all in the next video.